Well, welcome again. We're so excited to have you. Like I said, my name is Therese Perlowski. I'm going to be your moderator today. So if you need anything, feel free to put something in the chat and I will get back to you. This is a presentation by the Presidential Primary Sources Project. This is a series we put on every year with partners across the country. And today our presentation is the Johnson treatment, LBJ's 1964 campaign, and it's being presented by Sheila from the LBJ Presidential Library. Like I said, we work with partners across the country. Our company is called Internet2, and then we work with presidential libraries, which are part of the National Archives and the National Park Service to put on these programs. We go all the way through the beginning of April, so definitely check those, our upcoming ones out if you haven't already. This is just a quick disclaimer. By participating today, you are agreeing to be recorded, streamed, and archived. We do record all of our programs and they're posted on our YouTube channel. And the purpose of that is just so that students and teachers can access it, even if you can't make it to the live presentation. All right, I just want to go over a few expectations before we get started. So we absolutely want you to interact as much as possible. It's much more fun if you do. If you're participating via video and you want to answer or ask a question, you can raise your hand just on video and we'll see you and call on you. If you'd like to participate via audio, even if you're not using video, there's a little red raise your hand function in Zoom that you can do, and we'll call on you that way and help you unmute. And then there's always the chat. Everyone can use the chat to ask and answer questions. If you want to interact via video and I haven't promoted you yet, please drop something in the chat and I'll promote you to a panelist, and that way we'll be able to see you on video. All right, again, we really want you to participate. That said, please be respectful of our interactive tools. We absolutely want to make sure we're using the chat specifically just for thoughts and questions related to the presentation. All right, and then just a last thank you. This is our website. Go check out some of our other programs. If you ever want to access our recordings, they're also, the links to those are posted on this website as well. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sheila because she's the person you came to see.
Thank you, Therese. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad to spend some time with you today. I am Sheila Mehta. I am here in Austin, Texas, home of the Presidential Library of the 36th President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson. As the education specialist, I am the LBJ teacher. So I'm the one that gets to talk with students of all ages, little ones, big ones, adult ones, and we get to talk about all things Lyndon Johnson. And does anybody, I was going to tell you, today's going to be very interactive, so be ready to chime in the chat box, raise your hand, tell me. I want to interact with you, and I know we're all on a screen, but that hasn't stopped us in 2 years, so let's do this together, great? Does anybody know the importance of January 20th? This is a social studies question. All right, I see Edgewood's got their hands raised. What is January 20th other than today?
Presidential term.
Yes, well done. Today, after an election year, would be Inauguration Day, and it starts the new year for a presidential term. Well done. Very well done. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to present today about the election of 1964 when President Johnson was running for the presidency, and talk about that because today in 1965 is when he first took office. And so I thought that would be a really great discussion to have with you guys today. So let me share my screen now and we will start all this fun stuff together. All right, there we go. We're all good to go. Perfect. All right. I'm loving it. I'm excited to talk with you guys today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all the things that we're used to seeing. We're going to talk about things you already know, but in ways that are going to make you think, well, that you probably not have thought before. So we're going to explore this together. What is this 1964 campaign? I know 1964 was like a really long time ago, but A 1964 election is actually very similar to an election that we would have this year or next year or in all the years coming forward, because elections haven't changed that much since the United States became a country. And that's why I really want to talk with you about it today. It's both a couple hundred years old and will continue to be the same a couple hundred years from now. I think, right? Maybe things will change. So let's talk about this Johnson treatment, right? Can you guys see the picture behind me of President Johnson and how he's like standing over me? Well, that's actually what's known as the Johnson treatment. President Johnson was really, really tall. He was over 6 foot tall. And when he would talk to you, he would tower over you just like this, which if he's laughing at you, is kind of fun, right? If you're having a good time. Can you imagine if he was angry at you? Wouldn't that feel intimidating? And he was so known for doing this that it got the name the Johnson treatment. And you knew if he was happy with you and you knew if he was mad at you because of the way that he interacted, and he would tower over you and intimidate you if he wasn't happy. Now, that's not always a good thing. We don't like to interact with people that way. We need to remember that's not the kindest thing to do. But the way we use the phrase the Johnson treatment was about how passionate Johnson was in getting what he knew was right, like civil rights, right? Educational opportunities, helping those who were impoverished, and promoting the development of cities. So he was okay using a little intimidation if it was going to help the people. So how did he use that when he was running for election? Well, he can't hover over everybody, right? That's also not cool. So how did he use that when he was running for the presidency? That's what we're going to talk about today. So here's a picture of where I work. There on the left is a presidential library. There are only 15 of them now in the United States, so we're one of very few. And one of the cool things we have, if you see here on the right at the bottom, is a replica of the Oval Office when President Johnson was in office. And so it's really neat if you are able to come and visit Texas and to see it, because you get to step into a little bit of history, which is not really common to do. And then if you see here on the top, all these bright red boxes, that's where we hold our papers. We are a library, but not a library we can check out books, a library where we store information. And this is where all the papers of the Johnson administration are stored. And this is where we have all the information for his election. So we went through and we learned a lot about his election, and I pulled artifacts. I actually have some things I'm going to show you guys today that came from our archives, and we're going to explore those together. Okay, so a very simple question. What is an election? What is an election? We can type it in the chat. We can be on video. All right. Teresa, I wasn't sure who got there first.
I think Edgewood did. Edgewood, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Edgewood.
So an election is where like people vote to see who they want to be their leader, or to vote to see who would win or something like that.
Great. Yeah, and I saw Salem Lutheran in the chat talking about where people vote, right? An election is where in a democratic system, the citizens, the people who live there, are going to go vote to choose their leaders. They can also sometimes at the same time as an election vote on laws. So we try to put it all together so that we're shaping our nation with the vote and the power that comes from the people. So I say that because we know what an election is, right? We hear about them all the time. But sometimes we don't stop to define and remember what those words mean. So where the people are going to vote. Now, you usually have a couple options, right? When you're voting in an election, there's somebody against somebody at the very least, if not maybe 3 candidates or 4 candidates or more than that, depending on the election, right? For the presidential election, we usually have 2 or 3, right? Not usually more than that, because they get narrowed down by early elections that are called primaries. Right? So what I want you to think about now before we get into the 1964 election is, what do you see when an election comes around? Now, there's going to be a lot of answers to this, so utilize the chat. That might be the easiest way, is start throwing your ideas into the chat. What do you see when it comes time for an election? You might be seeing it now, in fact, because the early goers are already starting to do these things. Advertisements, rallies, commercials, debates. Oh, voting places. I like that. Yeah, you're going to start to see advertisements for where you can vote to let people know. That's a creative one. Well thought out on that one. All right, a lot of, I missed one here. A lot of different flags that say people's names on them, crowds of people, signs. Oh my goodness, Salem Lutheran signs, right? Signs are everywhere. I can tell you here in Austin, we have all of our signs are able to go up on January 1st. And so good gracious, we have so many signs at every street corner, right? Websites, oh yeah, they start promoting their websites of where to go to find information, right? What else? What modern tool has been used for the past, well, about 12 years only? We have ads, absolutely. What's our modern technology that has been used? I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time on it. Internet ads and videos. Yeah, we have a lot of social media, right? Okay, I gotta give a shout out to the I voted stickers. That's one of my favorite parts of an election. After I vote, I love wearing my sticker and I wear it all day. And sometimes I get an extra one to put on my computer. So I love the I voted sticker. And we see campaigns and slogans and all of these together, right? We see the commercials, we see the signs, we see the crowds of people. They'll make that all into videos. They'll make them into really short clips that you can see on Instagram, that you can watch the full things on YouTube, right? You can see them on TV, especially those debates that you guys brought up earlier, right? So when it comes time for an election, information is everywhere because the candidates want us to know their name. They want us to vote for them. And sometimes when people don't know about our candidates, they remember the name that they heard or they remember the sign that they saw. And so advertising is really, really powerful. Of course, we need to be informed voters, right? We need to make sure we know what the candidates stand for and that we're agreeing with what they stand for. But they still want to make sure that you know they're running. And so when we talk about the 1964 election today, I want you to look at what they're telling you, how they're showing you that they're a better candidate, because we're going to look at how they give you information without talking to you. Because we know that a rally can get a lot of information. We know that a video can have a lot of information. They did not have social media back then, so we're not going to YouTube, but we did have TV commercials, didn't we? Right? So when we talk about the conversations that were had today, we're talking about the conversations that aren't spoken, the ones that are printed. And how do they campaign for themselves when they're not there to talk? That's what we're going to look at. So here are our two candidates, our major candidates for the 1964 election. We have incumbent President Johnson and Senator Barry Goldwater. I put incumbent in gold because that's a really good vocab term. What does the word incumbent mean? This is a tough one.
Go ahead, Edgewood.
There we go, Edgewood.
Incumbent means like current president or current.
Right, currently sitting in office, right? They currently hold that position. Good job. Incumbent is not a word we use a lot, but we use it for an election because, well, that's when it's relevant. So anybody who is currently sitting in that position, who is running again to hold that position, is an incumbent, right? And it's just, it's a status, right? It's a status of they're trying to run again to hold that position. And so you see our folks here, Johnson on the left and Goldwater on the right. Goldwater actually has these really thick glasses. He's holding them in his hand. And I point that out because that's one of the things he's going to use to advertise himself, was actually his glasses. So keep an eye out for his eyeglasses, right? So let's take a look. I'm going to give you guys a second to just look at this screen. We took digital images of a lot of campaign material, physical things we don't see as much of today as we did back in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. So I'm going to give you a second to look at all the different things on the screen. And I'm going to ask you to tell me some observations in a little bit. And you'll have the pictures in front of you, so don't worry about having to memorize them. Take a look at what you're seeing. look at the phrases, look at the imagery, look at the symbols, look at everything, take it in. And then we're going to have a discussion about what they're trying to tell us. I haven't asked the questions yet. I love Edgewood's enthusiasm. Okay, let's start with this. What symbols do you see? And this is what I want you to look at. What are symbols? Remember, symbols are something that can represent something else, right? So they're used to represent something else. So what symbols do you see? All right, and again, you can use the chat. You can raise your hand if you're not on video. And of course, if you're on video, we've already got you guys lining up there. So what symbols are you noticing? Edgewood, do you want to start us off?
There's a elephant with glasses because the elephant is the mascot for the Republican Party.
Nice. Yeah, you see this elephant right here. So that's a great symbol to notice. Oh, there we go. Is the elephant, right? And that's a symbol for the Republican Party. You might be able to see more than one elephant if you take a close look. Okay. In the chat, it's here. We have. We also see they represent the donkey, right? Right here. There's one right here for you where it says, "I voted for Johnson." So if the elephant represents the Republican Party, the donkey represents the Democratic Party, okay? So that's really common symbolism to represent without having to say the name of the party. They use those animals instead. Fairly random, right? I feel like an elephant and donkey, really kind of random, but they do have their own meanings, right? Okay, what other symbols do we see? Edgewood.
I noticed that there is a glasses holder, and I think that that might be for Goldwater because he has the glasses.
Oh, glasses holder. I like that. It could be, right? You could, are you talking about this down right here?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But look what it says on there.
Oh, so it's not for Goldwater.
Right. And so, okay, so, but I love that you brought that up because that hat is everywhere. It represents President Johnson being a Texan, this Wild West figure. The cowboy hat is used all the time. It was actually hard to only pick a few things with cowboy hats on them because we have so much, right? Johnson is from Texas. He's actually just outside of Austin is where he was born and raised. And so we have the symbolism of the cowboy hat, but I do like how you brought up the glasses case, right? They made glasses cases, but also, this is not okay, but it was of the time, cases for other things like cigarettes. People used to smoke cigarettes a lot back then, but things to hold because every time you use it, you're reminded of that candidate, right? Right, so good, I love that you brought that up. What other symbols do we see? So we have now the hat, we have the donkey, we have the elephant. You guys are bringing up good ones. Anybody in the chat or not on video? Please, Edgewood.
I saw the in two things, the Goldwater 64. It says the number 64.
Yes, you go for it. Say the rest of that part.
And the rest and the car plate, like the car, the thing that's on the back of the car. It's like,
yeah, that license plate, right? So 64, notice they're using the number 64 in quite a few places, right? You guys brought up right here, the Goldwater 64. I actually have this one right here. I have that one right here for you, right? And to represent, it's that 1964 election. Don't the people know it's 1964? Do they need to remember? I mean, you guys know it's 2022. That's weird. But part of it is because they start promoting their candidacies very early, very, very early. Okay, now we're getting into some fun stuff here, right? And the For You LBJ, could notice the 1964 at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to bring up Edgewood. I see what you typed in the chat. I'm going to hold off on that because I really want to talk about that comment real quickly. But I want to point out the two comments that just came in. One of them is the arrows, and I'm going to use this one that I was just holding up, and you can see it in a couple places. The arrow on 64, right? Why do you think they're using an arrow? And look at how the arrow is used. Right here and right here. Why the arrow? And I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Is it Miss Corner or Mr.? I don't know if it's Mr. or Mr. Corner's class, the 12th grade class. Why'd you say the arrow? What's important about that? Because I'm glad. Pointing towards the future comes in with Edgewood, right? The next 4 years, we're moving forward together in 64, right? And so that is a really simple symbol. We're used to arrows, right? Arrows point us the direction we need to go. Right turn only, no left turn, right? So in this case, arrow is, that's the direction we want to go in 64. And oh, by the way, who's pointing you there? Goldwater, right? And so the arrow becomes really important for, particularly for Goldwater. You'll see it used a little bit for LBJ, but Senator Goldwater's campaign uses the arrow a lot because they said they want to move forward together, right? I love that you guys brought up that you see Kennedy, right? President Kennedy is referenced a lot by the Johnson campaign. And the reason, let me see if I can find, I thought I had something with Kennedy on it. I could be wrong. Oh, nope, I didn't. But President Kennedy is utilized a lot because Johnson will take over the presidency because President Kennedy passes away, right? And so they use his name to say, hey, you voted for this guy? Johnson was who replaced him because he was vice president, so keep us, right? Let's keep voting just like Kennedy, vote for Johnson. And so they use his memory to encourage that, right? All right, now, I want to go back to Edgewood's comment just a second ago. And let me see if I can find it on the screen. They made the comment of anybody, vote for anybody but Johnson. And there's a pin, oh, right here, the yellow one, right? Anybody but Johnson. Let's talk about what that is actually saying. Who do they want you to vote for? Read that pen. Anybody but Johnson, right? But it's not necessarily Goldwater. Is it saying that they want you to vote for Goldwater? No, this is actually some of that like negative talk that they use. It's like, oh, just anybody but Johnson, anybody would be better than that. We've heard that a lot in the past few years, haven't we? That it doesn't matter who you vote for, but there's a lot of vote for anybody but, which is a kind of trying to not be so mean way of saying they're awful, vote for somebody, anybody but this person. Do you think they had anybody but Goldwater pens and stickers and those kinds of things? They did. I just couldn't find any. They did. And this kind of negative talking has been around since 1800. When Jefferson ran for the presidency, that was the first kind of mean talking election. So we have had the history of this as well, okay? All right, so we have a lot of symbols. Anybody notice the stars on all the stuff? Take a look, do you see all the stars? Why the stars?
Go ahead, Edgewood.
Yep.
States with the stars?
Right, it's to represent the flag, right? The American flag. Most things also, oh, there we go, perfect, red, white, and blue, right? So we see the stars to represent the flag. We see a lot of red, white, and blue, okay? Do you also see the stripes? They're not as obvious as the stars are, but if you take a look down here, you see some stripes, right? You see the actual use of the flag. Look at the stripes on that one and here, okay? So yeah, we use the same symbols that we see everywhere with the American flag, trying to make these candidates look all American and good for America and moving forward and all those good things, right? But do you actually know what these candidates stand for right now by looking at these pins and these license plates and these bumper stickers, do you know what they stand for? What you would be voting for? You don't, do you? This is advertising at its best. You need those rallies, you need those today websites, you need those videos to know what their campaign, their platform is. But sometimes campaigns are more about the name recognition, and they don't talk quite as much about what they stand for, because advertising is really, really powerful. Let's take a look at the strategies being used. That's what we're going to switch away from the symbols and look at the strategy. So what tactics are we talking about? And I'm going to bring back that comment that Edgewood made a second ago about anybody but Johnson, because that is a strategy. We don't care who you vote for, just don't vote for Johnson. Well, there was really only one other candidate. So aren't they kind of encouraging you to vote for Goldwater? That's a tactic, that's a strategy, right? So what other strategies are they using? You might have to take another look at some of these because it's a very different idea shift from symbols, okay? Edgewood, do you have a strategy for me?
So you see the stuff that they put it on, like they put it on stuff that other people can see and that you see every day.
Perfect, yes. Things that you're going to see every day. So most of the things that you're seeing are actually pins that people would wear, right? Here's my all the way with LBJ pin, right? Can you guys see that right there? And I would put that and I would wear it around. So I'm a walking advertisement because I support Johnson and I'm going to walk around with this pin, right? Same thing with, if you think about that license plate from Indiana, every car that notices that license plate is going to read it. It's a driving advertisement for LBJ, right? Bumper stickers too, they work the same exact way, absolutely. Ms. Shattuck's class, I'm going to come back to you with that Ladybird comment in just a second because I want you to follow up on that with me. So be ready, be ready. The other thing that you're going to see, and this is one of the things I love pointing out. Do you notice what this is? It's the wrapper of bubble gum. So if you're picking up a piece of gum, you're going to pay your 5 cents for that bubble gum, right? Right there, you see the 5 cents, and you unwrap it. You're unwrapping an advertisement. Now, does this tell you who you're voting for? Is it advertising in that way? No, it's just telling you Johnson versus Goldwater. These are our candidates. Why? Why is this not trying to tell you vote for Johnson, vote for Goldwater? That doesn't make sense. Isn't everything else trying to make you vote for one candidate? Why not the bubble gum? Edgewood, do you have an idea?
Because the bubblegum like company is like neutral, and if like somebody wants to buy a piece of bubblegum and they're like voting for Goldwater and it says vote for Johnson, they wouldn't want to eat the bubblegum.
Very good. The bubblegum company also has to think about who's going to purchase their gum. They want everybody to purchase their gum, right? Good. Well done on that one. Also, who typically chews bubblegum? Older or younger? Now I'm going to layer on another question. When can you vote? At what age?
Well,
At what age can you vote in 1964? This is a little challenging question. I might need my high schoolers to chime in on this one. Ooh, Edgewood, 18? Not yet. The voting age was different in 1964. It was 21 years old at that time. It will be changed shortly to 18 years old, but at that time it was 21. So most people who are buying bubblegum can't vote, right? So they're just saying, know that there's an election, know these people. But most people who are picking up that gum and about to blow a big bubble, they can't vote. So it doesn't work as well to campaign with kids when kids don't get to go to the ballot box, right? But they're still advertising the election. They're still advertising the 1964 campaign, okay? Good, well done. I just wanted to sneak that little bit of history in there for you with the voting age. Okay, so I want to come back to that Ladybird comment, the vote for Ladybird. If you guys can see up here, right? Who is Ladybird? Irby, do you know who Ladybird is?
Johnson's wife.
Yes, that's President Johnson's wife. Her real name was Claudia, but her nickname was Ladybird, and everybody called her Ladybird. The president called her Ladybird, heads of state called her Ladybird. So that was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that was her name. Was she running for the presidency? No, her husband was. So why are they saying vote for Ladybird when they can't actually vote for Ladybird? All right, looks like Salem's in the chat with me here. Yeah, for First Lady. Yeah, Ladybird was really well known by the people because President Johnson had been the president. And so they're saying, vote for this wonderful First Lady by voting for her husband, right? People loved Ladybird. She was very sweet, very kind, represented a very traditional American woman in her values and her presentation. And people really did appreciate her. She actually becomes her own political entity in that she will really advocate and help to pass laws that will preserve our environment. That's not a lot of people don't know that. It's not as well known, but she was very, very, very big on the early stages of the environmental movement in the 1960s. In fact, when she was living here in Texas, she actually changed local laws with her influence and then took that to the national stage when Vice President Johnson became President Johnson, and will continue, right? So good, yeah, so here we have a different strategy of looking at the First Lady rather than the candidate themselves, right? And who do you think are the audiences? We're going to kind of just shift here with those tactics. We were looking at everyday things, and everyday people are going to see them, right? With the buttons and the bumper stickers and the license plates. But there's a slightly different tactic if we're looking at the bubble gum, right? And that's a target audience that can't vote, but still can be powerful, right? So what are audiences being targeted here? And I'm going to bring a couple things that aren't up here. Irby, what do you have?
So there's something else I wanted to point out about.
Please.
So see anybody but Johnson vote for president?
Mm-hmm.
I think I know why that's gold.
Why?
And why it's for Goldwater is because his name is Goldwater, and the anybody but Johnson color behind the black is gold.
You are so observant. They used gold a lot to represent Goldwater with or without saying his name. Look at the shiny bumper sticker. I mean, that says Goldwater, right? But it definitely has the shine that shines gold as well. When we have this one, it's actually a neon yellow, but when you see it, what does it look like, right? So well done on that one. That is a very good example of color symbolism. That is usually harder to pick up on, so well done there. Okay, all right, in the chat we see kids and Ladybird are for women, right? We have the audiences specifically being women targeted. This for sure is going to be targeted at women. Ladybird for First President, trying to get women to vote for Johnson, recognizing and kind of tying themselves to Miss Ladybird, right? What other audiences are being targeted? Sometimes it's really obvious, right? So we have kids here, we have women here. What other audiences do you see? Edgewood, tell me what you're observing.
I think that more of the license plates and more of like adult kind of things are more targeted towards adults because more adults can own those type of items.
Right, that's a really good point. Some things are specifically for adults who might be older or have more money, because you have to pay for a license plate, right? That's not something that maybe like a 21 or 22-year-old would normally have. So yeah, sometimes we see some like economic ties as well, okay? All right, Salem's in the chat, and then we'll come back to you, Edgewood. Good observations, y'all. Oh, here I am with my Texas right there with my y'all, right? We do say that a lot out here. And keep looking for those of you guys who are still thinking, look around at what audiences, what people are they trying to target with these types of nonverbal advertisements. All right. Oh, good observation. Looking for those that are not Republican or Democratic, but getting those independent votes. Yes, they really were trying to make sure everybody was voting. Even if you're independent, vote for a particular candidate. So they are going to try to cater to that. A really good example right here is this concept of splitting the ticket, meaning if there's an independent voter or an independent candidate, vote for one of the main ones because it's going to take votes away, right? In theory, from the Republican or Democratic candidate, or by not voting, you're not giving your vote to one of the candidates. And so they are catering to those independent voters in a couple different advertisements here for the campaign, right? I also have to bring up the drinks. I'm surprised nobody's brought up the drinks yet here in the middle. Do you guys see that? The Goldwater and the Johnson juice. Right? So this is a can of juice and this is a can of water because it is gold. The water's not gold. Please don't think that you're opening it, you pour it in a glass and it's gold. That would be really cool, right? I think it's a missed opportunity probably, but it was regular water. And Johnson juice is being marketed to counter the Goldwater, right? If they're going to put out Goldwater, he's going to come up with something that's Johnson. Well, it's perfect that juice starts with the J as well as Johnson, right? And so you can see the symbolism that we were talking about earlier with the donkey. And here they don't really necessarily even need the symbolism because they've got the gold, right? And so I love that you guys brought that up. And the idea of the men that work, right? The men that work after a long day, have a refreshing beverage, have some Goldwater or some Johnson juice. Well done on that observation. All right, Edgewood, you've been so patient. What have you noticed about the strategy?
They use stuff that they have some stuff that is only to people who can vote, but then the pins, like children could wear that, and the pins are stuff that anybody could see and that anybody could use.
Right. So I want to point out one pin to you guys that I really like. And that is the elephant right here that says Republicans for Johnson. Now, which party does the elephant represent? Elephants represent Republicans, right? But this is saying Republicans for Johnson. But the Republican candidate was Goldwater. So this is actually showing that the person who was wearing it would say, I'm a Republican, but I want to vote for the Democratic president, right? I actually have the opposite one. Are you ready? This one's going to be a little bit harder to see. Oh, there we go. It's got some shiny eyes. It's got some gems, right? So we have the donkey, which represents the Democratic Party, but do you notice those glasses on him? Those are Goldwater's big black glasses. And so without having the sign, this is actually saying Democrats for Goldwater, right? So we have these types of advertisements and these campaign swag that we have of other parties voting for the other candidate. Yeah, there is one that says Democrats for Goldwater. Let me find that on here, up here at the top. There we go. Thank you for pointing that out. I just really like the donkey one because the donkey one's like really cute. And the glasses make the donkey look really fun. So good observations on this one, okay? Here's another one. What audience would be the target? And I'm gonna hold this one up. You ready to make an observation here? Let's see if I can, well, it's better if I do that. Okay, and it says Goldwater and Miller right? And I'm going to flip it over so maybe you can see what it is. Do you know what this is to start with? Ooh, it looks like a popsicle stick. That is a good guess, but it is not a popsicle stick. Any guess? Talk about a target audience with this one. I'm going to tell you. A BandAid. Ooh, that's a good one because we do see different kinds of fun BandAids. It's not a BandAid. All right, we'll take 2 more guesses. Who's got guesses here of what this is? Oh, all right, Edgewood with the nail file. It's a nail file. So who's our audience on this one? Who would make a custom nail file for? Women, right? So every time, oh no, I chipped my nail, we'd file. We're actually filing an advertising. In this case, vote for Goldwater. Every time I chip my nail, right? So they would get really specific with the types of things they advertise for. And you're gonna have this for a little while, right? You can wear your pin, you can file your nail, you can have your bumper sticker, you can have your license plate, your glasses case. You can drink your Johnson juice or your Goldwater, depending on who you side with. You can chew your Democratic bubble gum. And all of these things, while they're everyday items, are going to have you think about these candidates. But it's still not necessarily telling us what they stand for, which is important to keep in mind. I'm also going to point out, and I don't know if this is something that you guys noticed, look at this button right here. Oh, good. You were typing that in the chat at the perfect time. Thank you. Scientists, right? Scientists for Johnson and Humphrey. So here we have a specific group of people who are saying vote for President Johnson, right? Does that mean all scientists wanted to vote for Johnson? No. But a group of scientists got together and said, we stand with Johnson, and we're going to print some and make some buttons for that. We also have, did I put this one up there? No. Okay, so this one right here, this one's hard to see because I have to keep this one in the plastic because it's one of the few ones that we have. Oh, actually it is right here. I forgot I put it there. So if you can see this one, that's actually what I'm holding up for you guys right here, but it's hard to see in the plastic. They don't let me touch everything, right? Do you see what group they're targeting there? And yes, Salem Humphrey is the vice presidential candidate with Johnson. So good to bring that out because you'll see Humphrey's name in there. And then the running mate for the vice presidential candidate, the running mate for Goldwater, his last name's Miller, right? So can you tell what group is here? I don't know if you can see it. That's not really helpful, but you might be able to. Oh, farmers. It's not farmers. That's a good guess. They have their own agricultural push, so don't worry about that because both of them are from the South or the West. Goldwater's from Arizona and Johnson's from Texas, so they definitely have a Western and farmer push, right? This actually says right here, union women. So women who are part of a labor union are united to vote for LBJ and Hubert H. Humphrey. So some of these, like the scientists and the union women, it does get very specific. Sometimes we see, like here with Split the Ticket with our independents, it's going to take those political lines. Other times it's going to be men, anybody, opposite voting parties, right? As we see here, people who can't vote. There's a lot of information that's being communicated very, very subtly. Right? And this is all around us. You guys pointed out the signs and the flags. You hear the campaign ads on the TV or the YouTube commercials, right? We always hate the YouTube commercials because they stop our videos, but they're advertising these campaigns. We're seeing it everywhere. We're hearing it everywhere. And we're not seeking it out. It's coming to us, just like all of these things right here. That information is coming to us and it's very powerful. So here's, on the right side, we see the women. We're gonna come back to this women as a target audience. Who's the target audience for this poster on the left? We have this image that's used a lot. If you see this one, but it's not exactly the same. Oh, okay, real quick, hold on, I wanna go back. You guys see the draft, they just brought up the draft Johnson in the chat. Yeah, people who were against the draft and against the Vietnam War, meaning that he needs to get out of office. That's a really good point. Well observed there, right? Who's the target audience for this poster? It's very simple. We got our red, white, and blue. We got our America. We got our President Johnson's face, right? It's really simple, but it's very different. Yes, Spanish-speaking Americans, anybody who comes from that population of Spanish-speaking, because do we know what Viva means? I will tell you, it doesn't mean elect. It doesn't mean vote. It means long live, right? You would think it's vote LBJ, right? But vote in Spanish is vote. So it would just be vote. But they were saying Viva, which means re-elect him, long live Johnson, right? And so we see this in different languages. You better believe that's a tactic that is used still to this day for people whose primary language might not be English. And we've seen this all throughout US history, that advertisements, propaganda, and even election campaigning is done in other languages, because just because you're not great at English doesn't mean you're not a citizen and you can't vote. So they want to make sure that you know Viva LBJ, right? Oh, but you better believe it also said Viva Goldwater in other places, because there's a lot of Spanish speakers in Arizona and a lot of Spanish speakers who could vote. So you better believe it. Better believe it. All right, here on the right side, who's the target audience of all of these? Rich people. Yes, let's talk about that bling, right? So probably somebody that's a little bit wealthier, right? That's going to stand out a little bit more, huh? Women. I don't think you're going to see a lot of men wearing these pins, do you? I mean, I really like our Goldwater donkey here just because he's fun. I mean, I like the LBJ elephant as well, but I don't see a guy really wearing this. Probably not their style, right? I mean, if it's your style, wear it. I think it looks great, but it's not traditionally the style. So yeah, this is another way that they were catering to women. And that one in the center is like this big, y'all. I wish I had it, but I they wouldn't let me take it. It's huge and it's sparkly and man, and it glistens off the sun. You better believe anybody who saw that, if once they're not blinded by the brightness of it, they're gonna know that person is gonna vote for LBJ, right? It's big, it's really big. I can imagine it's gonna like pull on your, like probably goes on a jacket, not on a shirt. It's really heavy, right? But that's also dedication to a candidate. Okay, here's another way that they cater to that women vote. Ladybird went on a train tour of the South. So this is called the Ladybird Special. It was also known as the Ladybird Express because it was a train. And when they stopped, they just stopped the train and they held rallies. And Ladybird would speak and all the people with her, notice they're all dressed the same. They had this Ladybird Express uniform. They sent out maps to let you know that they're going to be stopping in Raleigh and Charleston and Tallahassee and New Orleans. That was it. It was a short little tour of the South. They made some other stops as well, but they were very, very, very short. And you can see this here at the bottom. The Flying Whistle Stop Tour, and the Whistle Stop Tour was the official name of it. And so they stopped in several different places, but the first part of it was here, and then the second part was getting into Texas, right? Johnson's people, in theory, but not everybody in Texas wanted to vote for Johnson because they weren't all Democrats, right? So Ladybird went on tour, and we know that Ladybird was very respected, right? So they used the power of her reputation and the power of her presence to physically campaign for Johnson as he was out campaigning himself. He joined her on a couple stops and it made a big deal because people weren't expecting him there. But tons of people turned out to see Ladybird. And you didn't go into, a building, you didn't go into a conference center, you literally went to the train stop because the train stopped and she went out back. You see this podium right here? She said her speech, everybody left and the train took off. She didn't even get off the train. That's an old school way of campaigning. That's also very efficient when you have a lot of places to go in a very short period of time. And that's what she did, right? All right, so some of our symbolisms here, just to kind of remind and refresh ourselves of things we talked about. Our symbols, the Democrat versus the Republican, we have liberal. The GOP, the Grand Old Party, is another name for the Republican Party. We have the left versus the right, the elephant versus the donkey. We also have colors that are associated. Blue is more closely associated with the Democratic Party and red with the Republican. The Republicans, it's easy to remember because Republican, red, and right. Right? And then the opposite is the opposite. And the red and blue, everyone will use red, white, and blue. Those are the colors of our flag. Those are our national colors, right? But when you see more, like if you look at the candidates, you're going to see a Republican candidate more likely wearing a red tie, and a Democratic candidate most likely wearing a blue tie, right, for our men. And then our female candidates will wear those colors as well. They'll diversify their colors, but they'll wear those same colors predominantly to represent those parties. Okay. All right. I have one last thing to talk with you about before we look at the election results, and then I'll take a couple questions. So if you're thinking about some questions, be ready. And that is a TV advertisement. While they didn't have YouTube and social media, TV was very, very popular in the 1960s. And this is an election or a campaign advertisement, I should say. And I want you to take a look at the symbolism that we just talked about, because you're going to notice that it's not really there. This is a very different tone that you're going to see than that bright, the stars and the stripes and the donkeys and the elephants. This is very different. This is gonna be a lot calmer, but at the same time, it makes a really good point. This is a very interesting way to advertise a candidate.
When it's all over and you're in the voting booth on November 3rd, keep this in mind. America is stronger and more prosperous than ever before. And we're at peace. Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
That whole commercial was 3 sentences. When you go to vote, remember the country's at peace. Vote for Johnson. That was it, right? And the whole commercial, you're just looking at a guy walking, right? But it's making you identify with that guy, that he's a citizen and he's going to vote. And they follow up at the end with, there's a lot at stake. Whatever you do, just don't stay home. Oh, and vote for Johnson, right? A lot is said in very few words, just like all the buttons and the bumper stickers that we've just been looking at. A lot is said with symbols and very few words. And keep that in mind as you start to see this midterm election that we're coming up to this year. 2022 is a midterm election, and you're going to see a lot of it if you don't already see what's out there in your neighborhoods and in your cities and towns, right? Oh, there we go. All right, so how does campaigning impact you? Well, we've actually had that conversation this whole time, right? That it's what we see, it's what we hear, it's what is around us. So I feel like we can skip to the results, right? Here is President Johnson, Miss Ladybird, her family. This is the Johnson daughters, Lucy and Linda. And they're awaiting the results. Look at these old school TVs, guys. Look very different than what we see, right? And these are the 3 major news networks. At the time, the 3 major news networks were ABC, NBC, and CBS, and each one is tuned to one of them, and they're looking at the results. So who wins? I hope you guys probably know. I hope I didn't ruin it, but I hope you know. Wow. You probably weren't expecting to see that, were you? They both did a really good job advertising. But Johnson wins overwhelmingly. He gets 61% of the popular vote. That means of the individual votes that are counted, he gets 61%, but 90% of the Electoral College. Let me show you another map. It's not quite as overwhelming as this one when we look at a victory. This looks like Johnson, hands down. Well, yeah, in the Electoral College. But when we look at how people voted, it's a little bit different. So all of our red shades are going to be representing Goldwater. The darker the red, the more intense or the higher percentage of people who voted for Goldwater. And the more you get to pink, the less percentage, but still of more than 50%. And the same with the blue. The darker the blue, the higher percentage and margin of victory. And the lighter the blue, the less margin of victory, but still a Johnson victory. And then those yellow ones, although we want to say maybe Goldwater, from what we were talking about earlier, those are actually counties that voted independent. Okay, so very few on that one. If you notice the home state, right, of Johnson, and then the home state of Goldwater, most of the population actually lives right here in this. It's Maricopa County. That's where Phoenix is, the capital. And so while it looks like it might be more of a 50-50 split in Arizona, that's not the case. The majority of the population is right here. So, okay. All right, well, I'm going to end our conversation there. I'm gonna take a second to thank you guys so much for all your participation. You made this conversation so much fun, at least for me, so thank you. And I hope you were able to take away some wonderful, wonderful ideas and symbolism about what is going to be surrounded. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If you would like to ask them, we have time for just a few, and then I know we've got to move on because school schedules are real and we got to abide by them. So thank you guys. First, thank you for joining us and for taking the time to learn with me. But what questions can I answer for you?
Go ahead, Edgewood.
Was Ladybird tall?
Was Ladybird, I didn't hear that last part.
Tall?
Pull your mask up.
Tall, I think she said.
Yeah.
Was she tall?
She was actually very short. Very, very short. And it's kind of a surprise because let me see if I can real quickly find a picture of the two of them standing up. You don't see too many. Sometimes we can get some old images of the two of them. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a good one. I'm just gonna move my Google search. You can see, let me move it over to this screen and reshare mine. I love this question. That's a fun one. There we go. Look at Miss Ladybird. She's so cute. This was after his presidency. So you can see right here that she take away the hair, she comes up just above his shoulder. Now he was really tall, so I wouldn't say she was a tiny woman, but she was short compared to him. He made her look really short, but she wasn't a very tall woman. No. And you can kind of see in one of these older pictures here, this is a little bit better, but he's not standing up straight either. So this is when he was a senator. I mean, that old picture is kind of cool, huh? Yeah, good question. I like that one.
All right, any other questions?
I think Edgewood has one more.
There you go. Go ahead, Edgewood.
If you go back to the symbols, there was one that I wanted to ask about. There was actually two.
The which pictures?
The symbols.
The symbols, you got it. Let me share my screen with you.
There's one on the left side that says victory over communism.
Yes, that is a great catch right there. This is in the middle of the Cold War when the United States and the Soviet Union were having this governmental philosophical battle between democracy and communism, right? And this is Goldwater's campaign and his side saying, if you vote Goldwater for president, you're going to have a victory over communism, right?
Also in the top left, I don't know if that says Goldwater or Goldwater.
Goldwater. It does say Goldwater. Yeah, that's a little hard to see, isn't it? I love it. All right. I think we have time for one more. So, do we have anything in the chat? My chat got closed. There we go.
We don't. Nope.
Okay. So finish us up, Edgewater. What do you have for me?
How did Ladybird get her nickname?
Oh, how did Ladybird get her nickname? She actually got it from someone that she was close to, her nanny, when she was little. She was petite and small. She was a cute little ladybird. And so it has actually stuck with her since she was a little girl. It's not something that she was given older in life. Ladybird has actually been her nickname for most of her life, which is why everybody called her Ladybird, even heads of state. So other countries who would visit the United States will call her Mr. and Miss Johnson, Miss Ladybird. Yeah, that's a good one. And it's just like, sometimes we'll have nicknames, like one of my, it's kind of weird, it makes no sense, but my nickname for my brother is Polar Bear. He's had that since he was a little boy, and I've called him Polar Bear most of his life, and he responds to it, right? Nobody else calls him that, but with Ladybird, she got that name when she was little, and everybody used that. In fact, her daughters will they'll refer to her as mother and mom, and they'll refer to her as Ladybird as well. So it is something that is accepted everywhere. When they print things up, it'll say Ladybird. It was just something that was accepted and used by everybody. Yeah, good question. I love that one. Okay, well, Ms. Therese, I think we're all set here. And thank you guys again for joining us. I appreciate all of your work and your discussion. So thank you. Teresa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Sheila, for spending time with us. We really appreciate your presentation. And everyone else, I hope we see you again, especially you, Edgewood. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your enthusiasm. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.